Welcome to another episode of What's New in Beauty. My name is Nia Lee, and I'm super excited to have you guys here. If this is your first time tuning in, this is essentially the podcast where I talk about all the latest things happening in the beauty industry, and I give my 2 cents on them. I'm really excited for today's episode because we are diving into OLAPLEX, we're diving into Lime Crime, we're also going to dial into the honey pot as well too, and of course, like I said, go a little bit deeper in what's actually going on with these companies particularly, but of course, talking about the latest beauty news. So first up, super excited to talk about OLAPLEX. As somebody who has heard about OLAPLEX, and of course, if you're in that whole like hair care beauty world, you're aware of OLAPLEX as well. I feel like they're like probably one of the leading companies when it comes to just like hair care currently right now, and everybody loves them, and it seems that they have such an inclusive brand, and they have solid products, which I think is the most important thing. But this was super cool that I found out that they launched their own artificial intelligence in the form of a virtual team member, but it was in a really cool and exciting way. So in partnership with Tangent AI, OLAPLEX actually stated that the she, her, he, him, they, them, essentially their virtual team member was created by taking images of more than 240 brand advocates and employees, as well as the emotional quality of each person to merge into a composite that is an accurate, bias-free visual representation of the entire team, which to me, I think this is such an innovative thing because you rarely ever hear companies wanting to do something like this. You know what I mean? Like, to me, this seems like OLAPLEX really wants to kind of get on the cutting edge of beauty and AI, even though like that world is completely meshed, especially with NFTs and, you know, the digital space and, you know, AR filters and so on and so forth, but them making the decision to actually create a virtual team member who doesn't really have, you know, a gender of any, you know, specifics, you know, has colorful hair is really exciting to me, is such an innovative thing and really cool. And like the fact that they took all these images is absolutely insane. I mean, just literally detailed to a T. Essentially, this virtual team member is meant to interact and engage with its consumers and community of professional hairstylists on its website and social media platforms. They asked their audience on Instagram to actually help name their new AI team member, either with CG, Kai, or Rumi, and they actually decided to choose Kai, which actually states that primarily this is a gender-neutral name with multinational origins, Hawaiian to Scandinavian, that actually means the ocean or sea, which I think is beautiful. And I love particularly when companies always get their communities and their audiences involved in the decisions that they're making. Especially because OLAPLEX is literally making millions of dollars and literally like raising so much money, especially in terms of just like the company itself and, you know, closing out seed rounds and making millions, like upward close to billions now. But to me, I think it was super cool that they decided to lean, especially like also considering how many followers they have on social media as well. Like, again, upwards. I don't know if it's like upward close to 1 million, but it's like, it's pretty much there. Like, to me, I feel like everybody on the planet uses OLAPLEX. So like, yeah, 2.3 million, like they're literally absolutely killing it on Instagram. So them making the decision to actually lean into their audience, to actually get them excited about this name and the AI team member, the virtual team member, and really have it be a community effort is super dope. And I love when companies do that. They actually said in their announcement post on IG that they stated that Kai is the synthesis of us, the people that build the company and the brand from the ground up, mirroring the community of professional hairstylists and consumers that we serve. As unique as we are as individuals, we are united by our passion for OLAPLEX. So as you can see, this really was something that was thought out. It wasn't something that OLAPLEX made the decision to kind of rush out and do. Again, the intentionality behind it is genius. The CEO of OLAPLEX as well, Zhu Wang, she actually said, research shows that consumers want to see themselves and feel connected and engaged with the brands and companies they do business with, which I completely agree. I feel like we are in a time now where if you are a company that has not managed to like get into influencer marketing or like at least have a brand, you know, multiple brand ambassadors, not just one, but, you know, have actual people and faces and personalities behind your brand, you're not going to be able to sustain what's currently happening right now, because we are in a time where people want to connect with people. Community is really important. And so I completely 1,000% agree that this is where business is at. And if you're a business who's not tapped into really wanting to see themselves, really wanting to feel connected, that sense of community, then your company is literally going to be obsolete. We've been seeing this time and time again with companies going bankrupt, you know, from the Beccas to the Marc Jacobs to the Revlon recently. I just, you know, again, these household name companies that we think we're going to stick around, you know, they just didn't evolve. And so The new OLAPLEX, so again, continuing from the CEO, she said the new OLAPLEX virtual team member is the synthesis of us. Okay, yeah, that was a repeat of, what they said on their post there. I think really importantly that I really want to discuss, especially, here saying like we are united by our passion for OLAPLEX. To me, it seems that everything that they do, especially considering how big they are, it feels very much like a team effort. And even the brand and even the company that they chose to partner with for this, virtual team member, Tangent AI, new company. Like, they haven't worked with a whole bunch of companies, to be quite honest. They actually created the beauty industry's first and only selfie product quiz, which I find a lot of companies are getting into now, again, really wanting to make customer purchases very personalized. So by doing this selfie quiz, it allows these brands to actually acquire shoppers. It actually allows it to be a fun, engaging piece as well too. They've worked with brands such as Amazing Cosmetics, New Beauty, Tristique, but definitely OLAPLEX is definitely one of their biggest clients. But to me, even the CEO mentions that this is a newer company that we worked with. It wasn't about money. They didn't spend millions of dollars to actually put it into fruition. They just made the decision to go off of talent and seek out emerging talent and really wanted it to be a mutual beneficial partnership. So to me, that feels like everything that they're doing is so intentional and everything that they're doing is so innovative in the sense that I feel like especially in the beauty industry, like if you're not doing something big with a big brand, like it feels like nobody really cares about it, right? It feels like it always will, kind of, everyone will be like, oh, this is super cool for like 5 seconds and then completely forget about it, right? Which in a way I feel like has happened even with this current news. But I feel like it's such a smart move because literally 10 years from now, let's just say even 20 years from now, when we, even the conversation of the metaverse and avatars and certain things like that, like we are going to get to a point where we can literally connect with people that, we've never seen before, that are these virtual beings in a way that we can speak to and we can have, conversations with, and we can build this sense of community. So I think there's a conversation to be had there about them making a decision to seek out emerging talent, them actually choosing to partner with a company that created the first ever selfie product quiz, and really making it such an intentional, like I said, partnership from the beginning, because it was really one of those things where it seems to be that OLAPLEX, when they made the decision about this, it wasn't even about wanting to make a big deal about it. It's just like, we want to make ourselves, and I don't even necessarily even want to say that. I feel like they wanted to be on the cutting edge of what the industry is, going to be, and, in a way currently is. But I feel like they also give a crap about the fact that like this is probably what is going to be asked of us, especially because like with a company as big as OLAPLEX, the founders, the CEOs, the marketing managers, like they are not going to be front and center. Like, considering how like connected they are to the hairstylist industry, like it really is the hairstylists and even some influencers now as well too that really allow OLAPLEX to be what it is. But I don't think like it's gonna take like the founders and like the actual business people behind, doing their work 9 to 5 that's gonna be front and center. It's not like a small brand, a small business, or a small emerging beauty business or so on, where you can afford to be on Instagram all the time. CEOs, CFOs, they're running the company. So I feel like them making the decision to do this virtual team member just makes the most sense, considering as well too how inclusive it is, and how they're, it's not a gender in any which way. It's just a representation of the brand and, like they said, our passion for community and for professional hairstylists and consumers in a really cool, unique way, considering I feel like OLAPLEX to me has always been super unique in what it is that they particularly do in terms of their product. Like, I really don't look at them and compare them to any other brand out there. So to me, it just falls in line. And this is another example of a company who is making the decision to do something that maybe not a lot of people are aware of currently. Maybe not a lot of people are even going to peep it right away. But literally maybe like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like I said, 20 years from now, companies are going to be doing this exact same thing if they aren't already. And it just seems to me that once again, they're on the cutting edge floor of that. So shout out to OLAPLEX for making that move. I think it's super dope. I personally have never had any of the products or used any of the products. I've never owned any of them. I think I remember like picking up a bottle once just to kind of be like, oh my God, it's like OLAPLEX. I hear about them all the time. And I think they're also at Sephora. So that was probably my way of kind of, seeing what they're about. But other than that, I just know they're a really dope brand, and I love the content they put out. It's always authentic, always unique, and definitely a leader in that space when it comes to hair care. So coming up next with our next episode, so stupid. I'm trying so hard to be proper and it's killing me. Coming up next with our next topic. Clearly I'm out of practice, y'all. Lime crime making a comeback. This is really exciting. This is probably what I'm getting tongue-tied, because it is insane to me how like a brand who, to me, at the cutting edge floor of the beauty industry and beauty gurus and YouTubers and the beauty world, even just the beauty industry, like there are some brands that really stake their claim early, and like you can pinpoint some of the products, you can pinpoint some of the, YouTubers that would love these particular products and brands. But to see that Lime Crime's making a comeback, and I'll say this, it's been a minute since I have fully been ingrained in all things makeup products and so on. I feel like now we're all into the skincare world. But to me, Lime Crime was that brand that really just had the whole makeup industry on lock. Like you couldn't go anywhere without somebody using something from Lime Crime. And Lime Crime to me was always known for their really pigmented eyeshadows, their lip products. I feel like they always did things that were very, I don't want to say like retro, because that's not really it, but like they always had this kind of like over the top, but very like, if you're a makeup lover and you love colors and you do eyeshadow and you go all out, like Lime Crime is definitely that brand. I would even like say maybe like borderline kind of grungy as well too. Like you can tell, especially just like looking at their Instagram, when they started to appeal to a younger, more Gen Z audience, like even with the colors, like Lime Crime has always been a very colorful company, but you can see when they started to kind of appease more, especially because since obviously Lime Crime's inception, there's been 80 gazillion other beauty brands out there that have colorful makeup products, everything from eyeshadows. And I feel like now more than ever, especially because Lime Crime is such an OG brand, there are indie brands that were once like kind of underrated that have now taken over, right? Like Color Rain, for example, or Juvia's Place, or, Ace Beauty, or like, there's so many brands that like were doing what Lime Crime's doing on an indie level and now have gotten super duper big. And now Lime Crime, is in Urban Outfitters and so on and so forth. But to see them making a comeback is absolutely crazy to me, because I'm thinking in my brain, when did Lime Crime go away? But then also, because like you look at their socials and it looks like everything's popping, it looks like everything's great, but you can tell that there was definitely a change to a lot of things, especially with the industry and so on. So to see them making a comeback, to see them announcing off the gate that they were going to drop their prices, which I remember seeing the news about this and everyone was really excited about it because it felt like no other brand was doing that. It felt like no other brand was making the decision to lower their prices. It felt like no other brand was making a decision to do something different. And I'll also say this as well too. I just remember the Lime Crime liquid lipsticks. I feel like that was another thing that they were very much known for. But particularly with Lime Crime, them making the decision to actually announce that they were going to be dropping prices. It seems to me that everyone's super excited about that more so than anything, because it's very rare for a company to do that, especially considering Lime Crime's, creativity and their colors and so on and so forth. So this is what they said on their actual Instagram post. They said, at Lime Crime, we believe that there shouldn't be a high price on creativity, which is why today we are permanently dropping our makeup prices anywhere you shop us. Heavy. Like Lime Crime is coming out heavy and saying, listen here, okay? Permanently, i.e. meaning here it is. Let's not, you know what I mean? Like, let's not get anything twisted. Today, we are permanently dropping our makeup prices. As a part of this bold next chapter, we're also committing to lead with transparency. Follow along to learn more about our retail. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So to me, and I'll also say this as well too, if you aren't aware of the Lime Crime controversy, I'm not going to get super duper into it because you can Google it and so on and so forth. And to be quite honest, I wasn't super tapped into it because I personally, again, as somebody who kind of got out of the makeup world and started honestly like shopping for more like Black owned brands, like I wasn't completely like into lime crime as much. Like I remember I think everybody was obsessed with their liquid lipsticks at one point, but again, other brands started coming out with liquid lipsticks. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, if I'm getting lime crime and so on, it's, okay, but I'm not like chasing it. So particularly the lime crime controversy, it was really bad. The CEO was kind of going off the rails, saying some really disrespectful things and discriminatory things as well too. I remember specifically into relation to that. And it was not something that like people, it wasn't something that people particularly were happy about in any which way of the form. And it seems to me, doe deer, I remember that. That was like the whole kind of situation as well. I'm trying to remember exactly what exactly happened. Because yes, I remember when people were boycotting it. It was told that they had a very problematic history. A lot of people were boycotting lime crime specifically. And that was pretty much like the entirety of that as well. Oh yeah, so she was a racist. Oh my God, yes, the credit card fraud. That's also what also kind of took them down. And the CEO, I remember, like completely did not care. Like I remember it kind of being such a really just like bad time for lime crime. And again, as somebody who wasn't really shopping or checking for lime crime like that when it happened, the racism, the bigotry, the misanthropy, is that what that says? My goodness. I was like, okay, well, again, you kind of get your gut feeling about these brands, or you just make the decision like, I'm not going to support these brands anymore. And then you find out that things like this currently happen. And they actually did, when the company finally addressed the issue on their Instagram page about the credit card fraud. Yeah, that was really, really bad. And then the actual doe deer CEO, the former one, she ended up selling the company back in 2018. So again, lots of drama. Y'all can actually deal and go back into it and so on and so forth. But I want to talk about what's currently happening. Lime crime, of course, dropping their prices, and then also getting a note from the CEO, which her name is Andrea Bleeden. And what I thought was really dope that they did was that the actual CEO, Andrea, she made a decision to kind of do like this, ask me anything office hours and stories. I personally saw when they were actually currently doing it, and I would have hoped that the CEO would have been able to hop on the stories, or even, necessarily, do a live, you know what I mean? Like I was hoping they would have done something like that, but all they did was put a question box in their stories and then just, wrote answers via text, which I guess is great considering, like, again, these CEOs, when they're trying to, do their thing, they don't necessarily have time all the time to be on Instagram and so on and so forth. But I would have wished it was a little bit more personal like that in a way, because you never know. Like, I think we're in a time now, especially when companies want to sit there and say that transparency is the number one thing, and we want to be transparent, and transparency this and transparency that. Let us see your facial reactions. Let us, carve out an hour of your time, not even 30 minutes. You can get so much out of that, you know what I mean? And going live would be a great opportunity for you to be able to connect with your audience in real time, especially with the news of you, one, permanently dropping your prices, and then having an open floor as the new CEO to answer people's questions in real time, which again is such a way to connect with your community in a way that most companies will never, like, you'll never get the opportunity to do that, right? Like, most companies wouldn't do that because they're worried about their bottom line and so on and so forth, when at the end of the day, the things that are driving success to a lot of these companies nowadays, yes, you got to have good product, but it's community. Community is the reason why some of these companies are able to soar and be as successful as they are, whether, the CEO has been able to garner tons of community love, whether they were, a YouTuber, or, maybe they were an author, or so on and so forth, or a former makeup artist or a former brand owner. They have so much community. I think like Jones Road Beauty is like one of the brands that I think about, where Bobbi Brown obviously left Bobbi Brown and, started Jones Road, and that is a direct-to-consumer brand for the most part. I don't think they're in any, Ultas or Target or, Kohl's or Sephora, but has managed to stay an indie brand and has managed to get the love and success of, a brand. They're probably one of the fastest growing D2C beauty brands out there, because and when I say D2C, I mean direct to consumer makeup brands, in the sense that, like, there's no middleman, there's no Ultas, there's none of that. There are no suppliers. To me, I think like community is the reason why people love Jones Road the way they do. is because they love Bobby Brown. So to me, I would have hoped that the CEO did that, but it's fine. It's totally understandable. She did actually drop a video message stating, "Hi everyone, I'm Andrea. I'm the Lime Crime CEO. Yesterday, me and my amazing team at Lime Crime made a ton of announcements on changes, and you all had a lot of questions, and I'm thankful for that. So tomorrow I'll be doing an Ask Me Anything. We'll get everything answered and more. So please comment here and on our latest Instagram post, and I'll be sure to include it tomorrow. Thank you all for the love and support, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow." So this was a video that they just posted on their socials, and like I said, I would have hoped that they would have been able to do something more in person and live, and who knows, they might have the opportunity to do that a little bit later on. But just them opening up the floor, you'll even look at their socials, and now they're really leaning into us seeing who the team is. They've also recently launched a new hair care paste, it seems, and it seems kind of cool. It's like called the unicorn. It's called something with unicorn. I don't know. It looks like a tub of peanut butter. I will say that, but it's like colorful. So I think it's really cool. It's called the Ardent Candles Unicorn Hair. They're actually candles. Okay, very cool. I thought it was something in hair care. Very cool. I don't know. Everyone's doing candles now. Everybody wants to get into the candle bag. But I'll say this in particular, like, whatever happens with Lime Crime, it'll really be up to the consumers. When I'm researching and I'm looking at all this content and I'm looking at these comments, it seems to me that so far, everyone who likes Lime Crime is going to support Lime Crime, right? And you're going to have that with any brand that you've either loved for a really long time or have stuck with for a really long time, and maybe you personally don't feel affected by what currently happened. And I also feel like cancel culture doesn't exist either. So when you have a brand like Lime Crime, who its former CEO was being very disrespectful, and the credit card fraud, and they had tons of drama and are now making a decision to do things differently, you'll have a lot of people who will just kind of say, "Oh, well, I love their liquid lipsticks, or I love their nail polish, or I'll love their eyeshadows, so I will give them a second chance." And I will say this: I say cancel culture doesn't exist because I truly believe if you want to cancel, quote unquote, cancel somebody or a brand, you'll just stop supporting them, right? Instead of, going under their Instagram post and, writing a dissertation that they're probably not going to read and that literally serves no one except for the algorithm and bringing more eyes to their post. But I will say particularly, like, it seems to me that Lime Crime is making a decision to be their, most transparent self. I was watching a TikTok recently where a lovely lady, I don't remember her name, but she was speaking to companies that rely a lot on transparency for being the reason why they're able to, be in the industry. And I agree to an extent in the sense that when you are a company like Lime Crime that has a lot of skin in the game, a lot of people know who you are, you're in a sense a OG brand, a lot of those OG brands are not as transparent, right? I think we can name off tons of these brands that have been around for years and years and years that are not transparent, right? Whether, they're not transparent, maybe they're not sustainable, maybe their products aren't cruelty-free or vegan. So you got a lot of companies that are still doing things the old way. But at the same time, you have companies like Lime Crime who are now coming back into the mix. They're being transparent. They're letting us see who the new team members are. We're hearing from the CEO in a way that you probably never would have been able to do before, considering I don't know the past of Doe Deer and if she was very vocal with the community. But it seems to me that when everything was going down with them, everybody was quick to cancel them, especially with the credit card fraud, which is, completely, it's horrible. But on top of that, like her being, saying racist remarks and so on and so forth is also a huge red flag. So my whole situation with the entirety is, as somebody who is probably not going to buy anything from Lime Crime just because like none of their products really appeal to me, cool. And I love to see it. I would love to see more. I would love to see what the dropping of prices actually looks like for them. I want to see if they're going to come out with anything new and anything exciting. Are we going to get more opportunities to connect with their team members and the CEO in real time in a live or a masterclass? Or, I also saw that they put out a kind of a post saying like, "Hey, do you want to be part of our PR list?" And it got over 5,000 likes, over, 1,400 comments. So you got a lot of people who are still obsessed with a brand like Lime Crime, who are literally writing paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs saying like they would love to be a part of the team, especially with this new beginning. So again, this is what I say with the whole cancel culture thing, right? With some changes of CEOs and, transparency, people are quick to forget about certain things, or not even necessarily that. Like, if you want to support the brand that you want to support, then support them all the way through, buy their stuff, and so on and so forth. But my whole situation with it is Lime Crime is making a change. They've gotten rid of the thing that, didn't make them look great, for years and years and years. We're in a time of 2022 where everybody's talking about transparency. Everybody wants the opportunity to have access to these brands and these CEOs and these team members. And so it seems to me that they're doing everything right to kind of get back in the good graces of the community. And it seems to be working. So who am I to sit there and critique? Who am I to sit there and look down on it? I think if they're serious, then they will follow all the way through. And this is not just going to be something they do, just for shits and giggles. This is not something that they're going to do to just, appease to the quote unquote public. If they are serious about really wanting to change things and really wanting to go back and, go back to it being about the makeup and the artistry and community, then I say go for it, because at some point something got lost in the sauce and Lime Crime was very non-existent, especially now. And I've said it time and time again, the industry itself, the beauty industry is so like, you're getting now companies who, they'll still do the full face and makeup and it'll still be colors, contour, eyeshadow. Like, kudos to the girlies and guys that can do it to this day. I used to do it back in the day, but I'm just at a point now where, I want a light makeup look, or, I don't want to go crazy with eyeshadow, or I don't need a full coverage foundation because I'm working on my skincare. And it'll be interesting to see if they dabble into that world as well too, because they recognize that. It seems to me that they're going in the direction of changing things and really wanting things to still be about what they were about, which is about color and about standing out. But it seems to me that they're going to do things a little bit differently, and they're already starting to do that. So kudos to Lime Crime for the changes. I'll be definitely watching to see what they come out with and the new things that they have going on, particularly with their products and how they approach community and, getting all these people on their PR list, what that looks like. But all that to be said, yes, kudos to Lime Crime for making a change and getting the new CEO and becoming a lot more transparent. And again, like I said, dropping prices, which you rarely ever see a beauty brand do. Right? You always hear, oh, the company went bankrupt, or, so on and so forth. And now everything is on sale. You never hear a company willy-nilly going, we're actually permanently dropping prices and we're not changing the quality. And that'll be something interesting that I notice as well too, is when they drop these prices, is the product going to stay the same? That's the other catalyst to it as well too. So other than that, I'm really excited to finish up talking about this last topic, which has honestly been on my heart and soul for quite some time. It's something that happened, I believe, kind of earlier in the month, but all in all, I just have to say this, and there might be some cussing in this, but I'm going to try to keep it cute and try to keep it clean. So the Honey Pot, if you guys aren't aware about the Honey Pot is a Black-owned feminine hygiene line, brand, community business. And it's so funny. I learned about the Honey Pot very randomly. T-Pain, auto-tune king. He had I believe it was a show on YouTube. I think it was with Fuse or something in relation to that. Anywho, T-Pain was doing this thing where he was kind of like doing like a docu-series on businesses, and it wasn't a Black-owned business thing. It wasn't anything in relation to that. It was more so businesses that were disrupting the industries that they were in the sense of the people that he was profiling were doing things that hadn't been done in the industry before, or were very booming, emerging industries. And I think this was like 3 or 4 years ago. So when I learned about the Honey Pot on the show with T-Pain, I had always kept tabs on them because I had never heard of a brand like that before. Again, the founder, Beatrice Dixon, or B. Dixon, I should say, she particularly was like being interviewed by T-Pain, and they were showing it was just super cool. And this was before they started making millions of dollars. This is before they got into Target. This is before the backlash that we're going to talk about. This is before everything. So I was really always keen to keep up with the Honey Pot. Never bought any of their products because I'm in Canada and their products were only sold in the States at the time. But I had always kept up with the Honey Pot. I don't know what it was. When they got into Target, I was really excited, even though they had that huge backlash about the Target commercial. And I was like, what is going on? But now recently they've come into another backlash because it was reported. And I think this is what happened. And it's so crazy how this all came together, because I found out about this, I think, because I was just scrolling YouTube, and I saw somebody specifically speak on this. And then I went to their Instagram, looked at the comment section, tons of comments, over like thousands and thousands, like over 2,000 comments in some of these posts and some of their most recent posts. And I also had seen the founder also go on Instagram Live and speak to the backlash as well too. I didn't watch the full video, but because I knew it was going to be an emotional thing, and I personally don't like watching videos where people are going to get emotional and it's this whole thing and so on and so forth. So keeping up with that as well too, hearing some other people's commentary, because I had watched other people talk about it as well. The drama at hand was that apparently someone had put a TikTok out saying that the Honey Pot wasn't Black owned anymore. And I will say this, as the Honey Pot was growing, they were never one of those brands that were shying away from them being Black owned. Like, they always made that the main thing that people knew them for. And it had nothing necessarily about them just like only selling to Black customers and so on. That's not what the whole Black owned thing means. It means that they just always put Black people at the forefront of everything they were doing, right? They didn't double down the way Shea Moisture did at one point, the minute they wanted to quote unquote become mainstream and put and nothing wrong with that. But when the whole Shea Moisture commercial came out and everyone was like, what is going on? Like, this doesn't, relate to who your customer base is. It's kind of like a side eye. Like, no, the Honey Pot always stayed Black with everything that we were doing. So when the drama came out that they weren't Black owned anymore, and that there was also a lack of transparency and honesty about the fact that they changed their formulation, and people were going crazy. They were calling them sellouts. They were saying that I'm not going to support the Honey Pot anymore. Like, you should have seen some of these comments underneath these posts. And I say this particularly as somebody who is a Black woman and a beauty founder myself. It felt to me that everyone was just kind of ready to jump on the fact that they were selling out, the fact that they were not Black owned anymore. And I will say this as well too. It was really upsetting to see that, especially considering the Honey Pot is a company that raises a lot of rounds and is obviously has tons of investors that are investing millions of dollars into this company. So regardless if the founder, the co-founder, and the CEO had an exit strategy about maybe not wanting to, be a part of the Honey Pot anymore, so on and so forth. Like, it doesn't really matter, because so many CEOs do that. Some of the CEOs that y'all love to hype up are known for selling some of their biggest companies and making millions of dollars and then starting other things, or, investing in other things and so on. That's how this whole business, that's how this whole business things works. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that you'll get a lot of CEOs, especially in the business world, that will stay with one company for long. They might have multiple companies and so on. Like, recently, the Lip Bar founder, Melissa, she recently launched a whole new brand as well too, that's like in Target, that is not similar to the Lip Bar in any which way, but it's a new brand. And I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to sell the Lip Bar. You know what I mean? And it's not something that and it's called Thread Beauty, by the way. That's the new brand that Melissa started, I believe, earlier in the year. But to me, it was really upsetting to see how quick people were ready to throw the Honey Pot away. There were also some brands that were trying to leverage their own brands in the comments and saying, well, we're still Black owned and we still have organic ingredients and so on. And that was one of the biggest things. It was that the Honey Pot was known for being a Black owned feminine care, feminine hygiene brand. Their products were organic, which I'll say, and natural and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of hiccups with the word natural and organic, and, companies not being able to be natural and organic and be able to produce millions of bottles of product and so on and so forth. But to me, it felt like everyone was just ready to attack. It felt like everybody was kind of ready to attack. Everybody was ready to believe the lie. Everybody was ready to, go on the defensive and not support the Honey Pot anymore. And to me, again, going back to being a Black woman founder, and I'll say this for everybody who's listening that's a founder as well too, there's going to be a moment where people are going to want to cancel you. People are going to want to build you up so much that they want to pull you down. And you shouldn't obviously walk around being afraid that's going to happen, but understand that it's a possibility, especially being a Black woman, a Black person, a founder, having a really, 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 really successful business, you know, so much so that you might feel like the success is probably, you know, it's not earned, you know what I mean? Like you don't deserve it for whatever reason. But to me, you know, again, they addressed it on their Instagram. You know, they were on the Breakfast Club recently and they addressed it as well too. And a lot of the points that were being said, I mean, everybody has, I mean, especially even looking at the comment section of some of these videos, half is like, you know, nobody's upset for the fact that you're not a Black owned business anymore. It's the fact that you weren't transparent with your customers, that you changed your formula. And a lot of people had a lot of issues with the product. And it's something that they're, you know, in a way putting inside them because, you know, they sell vaginal wash and pads and panty liners and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So this is something that can affect especially Black women, especially considering when it comes to anything that's dealing with kind of feminine hygiene, that's already an industry that Black women and just, you know, as a whole do not have like autonomy in. You know what I mean? Like most of these companies that we support are owned by, you know, white people, white men particularly. So at the end of the day, it was a lot of back and forth. And I will say this again, I don't have a lot of like stake in the sense of like, I am not one of these customers that, you know, unfortunately were, you know, affected by the ingredients changing and so on and so forth. But I'll say this, and they said it in the interview, if you guys want to check it out on the Breakfast Club, you know, especially with the products that they're trying to produce and so on, you can't be always completely natural and organic, especially when you're trying to put out as much product. And it, you know, for them it's millions because they're in tons of Targets and I believe they sell on Amazon and so on and so forth. Again, none of that excuses them not being honest. And I said this to myself personally. I said they really messed up, right? They really effed up when they weren't transparent. And the founder, B, says this particularly, we messed up. We should have been honest. It was something that we thought we could, you know, handle behind the scenes. And I'll say this, especially, you know, maybe they obviously know they're a big freaking deal, but maybe they're still operating from we can like handle it ourselves. You know what I mean? And it could have been one of those things where they were honest and they had tons of people that didn't want to support them and so on. They even said this in the interview that their sales started to dwindle as well because people were upset about the backlash. But I'll say this. In a time where you have to be honest with the idea and the thought process and the fear that people aren't going to mess with your brand anymore, you have to take that risk and you have to take that chance, because the other catalyst to it is that something could have happened to these women. Something could have happened to these customers that were using your products and didn't know all the ingredients and so on and so forth, right? And that is even worse, right? Than you know, not sharing and you thinking you can handle it behind scenes and closed doors. But at the same time, the conversation of them not being Black owned anymore, like guys, at the core of it, you know, B doesn't have to. She can still be the CEO and not be the founder, let's just say, right? Or she can still be the founder but not be the CEO, right? There's tons of roles that you can fill. There's tons of companies that the person who founded the company is not working in the company. They've either sold it or they work at another level of the company. They're either like chief marketing officer or they're the chief, they do other things in the company, but they're not necessarily dealing with the CEO day-to-day things. Or again, like I said, they don't necessarily own the company anymore because they've sold it or they, sold shares in it or sold stake in it. So at the end of the day, that is not a far-fetched thing to happen. That is not far-fetched by any means. People love talking about Elon Musk till they're blue in the face, but we don't talk about the fact that the reason why Elon Musk is the way that he is because he built things. He was an inventor. Again, this is like people always forget, like at the core of it, there are people who are really good at ideas and they're inventors, right? They can come up with a concept and put it out there into the world, but they don't know how to market it or they don't understand the business of it. It's very rare that you come into people that are all the things, business whiz, marketing whiz, and know how to make a great product. It's very rare. And if that's the case, there would never be any other roles in a company and the CEO would just be doing everything, or the founder would be doing everything. But in the sense of the Honey Pot and them selling and not being Black owned, a rumor that was started off the backs of wanting to start drama, it seems, because at the core of it, they keep saying over and over again, we are Black owned, we are Black owned, we are Black owned. What more do you want? My whole thing is, if you want to cancel a brand, then just stop buying from them. But y'all want to drag them in the mud. Y'all want to drag them on social media. Y'all want to drag them in the shade room comments. Y'all want to drag them in their own comments. You want to drag them in Lipstick Alley. You want to drag them it's just so much of that. And at what point do we give people grace? At what point do we give people grace to be able to mess up? Because it feels to me, especially as a Black woman founder that B is, it feels to me, like I said, they built her up so much just to tear her down the exact same way and didn't want to give her an opportunity to even speak her piece without coming with some sort of negativity. If you don't want to support the Honey Pot anymore, that is your right. That's your money. That's your pockets, right? But don't sit there and try to tear somebody, because that's how I look at it, right? Like, I would never go out of my way to try to tear down somebody, because what does that do, right? That just adds more fuel to the fire. That doesn't add a solution to the problem. And my friends say this all the time, that I'm a very solution-oriented person, in the sense that you have to come to the table with a solution and stop only talking about problems, instead of only talking about drama and only making this the main thing, right? And it seems to me that was the thing that really just wanted to take heat. Like, the drama, right? The drama of it all, right? The drama of it all, considering them wanting to do things differently. They messed up, right? They talked about in the Instagram live, we have not sold, right? The wash formulation has evolved for a good reason. We have and always will serve humans with vaginas best, full stop. And, opening up a line for, emailing her directly if you have any questions. And that to me is an act of, I messed up and I'm here to speak my truth, right? This is what I would have loved the Lime Crime founder to do. But she doesn't have to come through Backlash and so on. But just having this opportunity to connect with people in real time, especially if those individuals feel disrespected and feel betrayed, because there's a lot of people that love the Honey Pot. There's a lot of people that consume their products, advocates. If they weren't too pricey, I would get a few myself, but there's also tons of brands, that sell feminine care, especially in Canada. So I choose to support typically Canada first. But I'll say this, at the end of the day, it felt very attack-ish, and I didn't really like that. And as a Black woman who's also a founder of a brand, a skincare brand as well too, where, the products that we put out, that we try to put people onto, they're putting it on their face, they're putting it on their skin. So it can always be, you never, everything is always up in the air for some sort of, something. But the number one thing, there's differences here. There's different, because I'm super duper small and B is not, right? The Honey Pot is a huge, huge brand, right? So I think there's just so much to unpack with that. But I just really wanted to speak to that specifically, because it felt like people were ready to attack. And when you are making the decision about a brand that you want to support, not buy from them, whatever, think about the implications of that. And I will say, B mentioned this in the Breakfast Club interview, which is I'm not the only one reading these things. My employees are reading these things, right? That they got family members, and all of this trickles into who we are as human beings and as people. And I feel like sometimes social media makes it feel like, we have such access to people in a way, and sometimes we don't deserve that access. You know what I mean? But for the Honey Pot and them resolving the issues and really being honest about the formulation changes, they messed up with that heavily. I'm not discounting that. But the main thing that I really wanted to speak about as someone who even wanted to sell the company, let's just say, that's not a far-fetched thing to happen. Like CEOs and founders, like I say, sell companies all the time. It's how they get rich, and it's how they're able to do other projects and other things. You know, just because she's the founder of the brand doesn't mean she needs to be with the brand for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Or maybe it's not just feminine products. Maybe it's other things as well too. Feminine hygiene products, it's other things as well too. But at the end of the day, it just felt very attack-ish. And I wouldn't even say really ish. It just felt like everybody was on the attack. And when you're a Black-owned business as well too, it's sometimes a little bit of a slippery slope, because, you know, when you're trying to be for the culture, or you're trying to like lean in with the Black, you know, own business, like there's a lot of pressure that I even feel like Black people put on other Black founders as well. And I get it. Every Black person who is successful, there is that little bit of pressure as well too, to want to give back to the community and want to show out for the community and so on and so forth. But I will say this, sometimes the culture be quick to turn on you a lot faster than, you know, everybody else. And, you know, like I say, they build you up so much just to kind of tear you down. And it's kind of sad to see. I hope they're able to kind of make a recovery. I feel like they will, especially like if they open up more opportunities to be transparent. And I believe they launched a new product as well too. So like, I don't think this is really going to stop the company from doing what it is that they need to do, but it was definitely something that needed to happen in order for them to realize, okay, like we can't be dealing with things under the table, and we can't be, you know, thinking, oh, we're doing what's best and not being honest with people and so on, considering when the same individuals are telling you, hey, this formula is not the same. Or, you know, the last time I used your products, they were fine. And now I'm getting like, you know, I'm getting a side effect from it. You know what I mean? Or I'm having issues with it. And as a company, you're always going to deal with that no matter what. There's always going to be some sort of hiccup. It's not really necessarily about the hiccup. It's how do you recover from it? It's how do you react from what's happening, right? It's how you figure out the solution instead of doing everything to illuminate the problem. And so to me, that was really my 2 cents on that. I really needed to speak about that. It was really on my chest. And I just want to say, for anybody who has been affected by the honeypot and so on, like I feel for you in that way, because to support a company for so long and have them not be honest with you is completely like, you know, it's definitely a sense of betrayal in a way. And again, making the decision not to buy from them anymore is your right, your coins. You can do what you want to do. I have done it as well, where companies have done things that have slighted, you know, whether it's not me personally, but just how they've moved. I made the decision to not support them anymore. They don't get my money. And so I don't take emotional stock in the things that go on with them. And so if you're one of those individuals that doesn't want to support the honeypot, don't want to take emotional stock in it, then do that. You have the absolute right. But for the individuals who just want to hate, who just want to take an opportunity to tear personally what I look at it as another Black woman down when she's really, really down, to me, I'm not really cool with, and I'm giving you the side eye, Major. So just wanted to say that. This has been such a fruitful episode, very cathartic in a way. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of What's New in Beauty, and I will catch you in the next one.